This podcast is hosted by licensed therapists, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The content is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice or a therapeutic relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, we encourage you to consult a licensed mental health provider in your area. I'm Dr. Marissa Eusebio.
I'm Dr. Ana Barus.
We are licensed psychologists and we're moms, but we are not your mother's therapist.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Mother's Therapist. Today, we are talking about kind of a heavier topic. We're talking about miscarriage. And I think it's important to kind of first even talk about why we want to talk about this. We do have a lot of patients that we've seen who have gone through loss, whether it be a miscarriage, a stillbirth, whatever it might be, child loss. But I think the bigger reason why we want to talk about this is because it's been really stigmatized, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And we often kind of like do presentations talking a little bit about the history of why miscarriages and birth loss in general has been stigmatized over the years. If you look back in history, there was a time where like women were getting stoned for not being able to have children, right? Because it would be seen as a sign of her being too promiscuous.
Yeah.
The reason that she can't have kids. Or sometimes it would be seen as something to do with like witchcraft or black magic of some kind. Like there's a spell that's been put on you and that's why you lost the baby, or maybe you did something bad in a past life and that's why you lost the baby. Whatever it might be, for some reason or another, the blame was always put on the woman. Not very often was it put on the male. Yeah. And so if you fast forward several centuries later, what happens? We still kind of hold on to that a little bit.
A lot.
I'm
going to say a lot.
Yeah, there's still this culture of like whenever a miscarriage happens, whenever there's child loss that happens, there's this like women have this tendency to want to blame themselves. I should probably just go ahead and start this off with one particular stat, which I think is very important, that 1 in 4 pregnancies end in a miscarriage. A miscarriage is anything before 28 weeks. After that, it's considered a stillbirth. And that's high.
Yeah.
Did you know that before your own experience?
I think I don't know if I knew that exact statistic, but I knew that it happened frequently.
Yeah.
Because also when I experienced this, it was before our women's clinic.
Yeah.
Education and training and reproductive mental health was not a thing in my world.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about the stigma around miscarriage, but going back to the original kind of point here that I was trying to make is that the reason we want to do this episode is to relieve some of that stigma. I know that one of your reactions I remember is like, wow, I didn't realize so many people had miscarriages. And so let's start talking about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you've had your own personal experience.
I have.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, this is a heavier episode. It's a heavier topic.
I do want to say too, if, I think for the few next minutes, we're probably going to be talking about the story. We might still weave in the story as we go. So if you do feel like maybe you need to skip a few parts, feel free to do so. I don't know. What do you think?
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that we often don't want to think about these heavy things, or if you're going through something like this, you might not want to listen to this. But I actually have the opposite thought as you. Like, I think you should listen to this, even if you're struggling with it, or maybe if in the moment it feels too much, come back to this.
Come back to it, I think is important.
Come back to it. Yeah, because
that's our trauma psychologist side coming out.
Yeah, like don't avoid this.
Don't avoid it. Avoidance is the biggest thing that creates shame and stigma and all of that.
And I think part of the stigma that comes with pregnancy loss and with miscarriage is because we don't talk about this enough.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my motivators in bringing up this topic today. Because I know you and I kind of went back and forth. Like, is this
Mhm.
something that we talk about? How do we talk about it? And I think one of the biggest reasons that I want to talk about this and why I think it's so important is because when I was going through my own miscarriage, it felt so isolating. It
Mm,
felt like no one in the world had ever experienced what I was going through.
yeah.
And I felt very lonely. But in looking back in it at this whole experience, there was actually nothing particularly unique about my experience.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who had a very similar
Yeah.
experience with miscarriage and with loss, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started talking about it with other people in my life
Mhm.
that so many people were like, "Oh, I went through the same thing." Or
Mhm.
a very similar thing, right? Because, no one can know exactly what you went through or has the
Yeah.
exact same experience, but so many people had a parallel experience to what I was going through.
Yeah.
And I felt so much comfort in knowing that I wasn't alone in everything that I had gone through and everything I was still going through. And so that's why, one, we wanted to talk about this, but then also, like, I think you should come back to this episode
Yeah.
no matter what and listen to the whole thing. Whether it be you that goes through it and gains something from this, or someone in your life has gone through this or will gone through this. This is not something that just doesn't touch most people. It
Yeah.
touches most people.
Yeah.
You absolutely know someone who's gone through a miscarriage. Even if you don't know it, someone in your life has gone through it.
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. We should mention too that, and we kind of touched on it here, but avoidance is kind of a big
Mm,
part in maintaining trauma symptoms. Um, that's kind of actually a lot of what we do in therapy is we challenge avoidance, right? We encourage talking about traumatic experiences in a more structured and therapeutic environment. I don't know that
mhm.
I would, recommend to people that if you really haven't processed your own trauma, that you go off and like tell it to like 10 different friends.
Right.
I would say like do that with a professional that can kind of encourage you in the right ways to do it. But nonetheless, like the key element here is that when you introduce avoidance into a traumatic event, it grows.
Mhm.
It gets worse. It adds this level of shame, this level of secrecy, this level of preventing yourself from learning new things, right?
Mhm.
And I think actually what you just said is a perfect example, right? The more that you started to talk about it, the more that you realized, oh, like a lot of people have gone through this. But
Mhm.
imagine if you didn't.
Mhm.
Imagine if you just kept this totally to yourself and really never told anybody.
Yeah.
This would have been just such a private experience that is perfect for harboring shame
Mhm.
and all of these different things.
Mhm.
So avoidance is a big thing. If you're looking to heal, I think, from any trauma that you've experienced, think about what kinds of people, places, activities, things you avoid, experiences, emotions that you avoid. And think about how you can do that a little bit less. And
Mhm.
maybe it's not skipping this
Mhm.
episode.
Yeah. Or coming back to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if it's hard, then it's hard.
Yeah. Doing hard things in life is not bad.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I think, I'll get into my not so unique experience,
Yeah.
right? My not so unique story. Me several years ago, I think this was actually 2021 when this happened, which is wild to think
I
about how many
know.
years ago that was now.
Gosh.
Um, but so this is, during the pandemic, me and my husband, we were on internship, you and I, me and my
Mhm.
husband decided to start trying for a family and actually got pregnant pretty quickly. I think it was like this first or second cycle that we got pregnant. Um, and when I tell you like joy and excitement
Yeah.
were just the overwhelming emotions that I had when I took that pregnancy test.
Yeah.
I remember it was like the middle of the afternoon and I take this pregnancy test because I was like, man, what if, And I remember I started crying because I was just so overwhelmed with
Yeah.
emotion. And I think I've said this before, I don't cry a lot.
Yeah.
And usually if I'm crying, something bad has happened.
Mhm.
Either I am ridiculously angry or ridiculously sad, right?
Yeah.
So I'm crying, and both me and my husband are working from home because it's the pandemic, and he's on the phone, and he looks at me and he's like, I could see it in his eyes where he was like, something's happened. Something is wrong. She's
Yeah.
crying. And he's like trying to rush off the phone, and I'm trying to tell him like, I'm okay, but
Oh my
like, do get off the phone.
gosh.
So it's just like chaos for a moment. And then just a lot of crying on both of our parts
Oh
because
my
of how excited
gosh.
we were. Um,
What a
and
magical experience.
it
There really
was
is nothing like finding out you're pregnant for the first time.
when you want
When
to
you
be
want it.
pregnant.
When you
Well, I
want
guess
it.
even if you don't
Or the
want it.
absolute dread when you don't.
When you
Yeah.
don't, exactly. So, but for us, it was pure excitement and joy.
Yeah.
And we had conversations pretty early on about who do we want to tell? Because we knew that miscarriages, especially in the first trimester, which is the first 12 to 14 weeks, depends on who you talk to. Some doctors use 12 weeks, some use 14. But in that first trimester, the rate of miscarriage is quite high. And we knew that. So we were like, okay, well, who do we want to tell? Who do we not?
Yeah.
How do we navigate this? And we basically settled on we're going to tell the people that we're pregnant, the same people that we would tell if we had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm going to tell you I have a miscarriage, I'm going to tell you that I'm pregnant because I'm a big advocate of, I don't want to tamper my excitement. I want to
Right.
share my excitement with
Yeah.
people. But in that, I had to also accept that that would mean sharing my grief and sharing my pain if it did
Yeah.
end in a miscarriage. And I think also because I'm a therapist, I didn't really shy away from telling people this. So we told quite a fair amount of people. We told our close friends and family. And actually, at this time, it was my mom's 60th birthday. And, I know I've mentioned my family before, but we're all very close. And so we were actually planning on going to the Bay Area for my mom's 60th. All me and my siblings, it was my immediate family. And we made a video for them from all of our friends and family, wishing my mom a happiest, what is the word? Happiest. There it is. Like a happy 60th birthday because they couldn't be there in person because of COVID,
Okay,
right?
how cute are you guys doing that, by the way?
We are
That
really
is
cute.
so cute.
I don't
The
remember
amount of
whose idea
thought,
it
the
was,
amount of
but
effort.
yeah,
It's so adorable.
it was a collective effort. We are we're pretty good kids. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Oh my gosh.
And so, me and my husband were like, this is perfect. We already had this whole video idea, and we're like, our video is going to be announcing that we're pregnant. So we get to the Bay Area, and my older sister, we're taking a family picture, right? This is before the video. We're taking a family picture, and my sister is the one setting it up, and she's like, okay, on 3, say cheese, and she says 1, 2, we're pregnant.
Your sister
My
says
older
that.
sister says this.
Yeah.
And I damn near lost my shit. It's great because instead of taking a picture, she was taking a video. So she caught all of our reactions.
Yeah.
And it is clear that I realized this. I realized what she said before anyone else because in the video, everyone is just smiling, saying cheese, and my jaw has dropped.
Yeah.
And I am just pure shock on my face.
Yeah.
And I just start screaming. I'm like, what? And I can't even describe the emotions.
I think you showed me the video and I think I teared up watching the video.
Yeah.
And I already knew you were pregnant. So it wasn't because I was learning you were pregnant. It was just the pure, the ecstasy and joy, on everyone's faces. I was like, oh my gosh, I teared up watching that video.
And keep in mind, at this point in this video, my family does not know that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? So me and my husband look at each other and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
So at this point in the evening, it was like, we take this picture and we're supposed to have dinner and hang out and then watch this video. The video was supposed to be the last thing. And I looked at my husband and I was like, we have to watch the video now. I can't contain it. I will lose my mind.
Yeah.
So I lied. And then I told my siblings, my mom doesn't know about this video. I told my siblings, Michael's feeling sick. We have to watch this video now. And they're kind of looking at me and my little sister was like, he looks fine. And I was like, he doesn't feel good. We got to watch the video now.
Did you tell Michael to look sick?
I don't think so. I was just just roll with it. Just play along. I don't know. I don't know how you look sick. He's just in the corner right, suddenly, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he feels sick. I don't know. And I think my siblings were like, she's losing her mind. But okay, I guess we'll watch this video now. And so then we have another video. And we purposefully were recording my older sister's reaction.
Yeah.
And in the video, like, me and my husband, like, announced that we're pregnant, and my older sister, when I say she lost her shit, like, she literally, like, elevated out of her seat. Like, she
Oh
just jumped
my
out of her seat, and she is, like, screaming,
gosh.
right? Because now we have both realized that we're both pregnant, and we know that we're due within weeks of each other, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, on this video, we're just, like,
What
screaming.
an
Oh
experience.
my gosh, when I say that it was such a memorable moment for us. And we're basically just, like, screaming, like, we can't believe we're pregnant at the same time because we
Yeah.
have always wanted this. We
Yeah.
have always wanted to be pregnant at the same time, and we have always wanted our kids to be so close in
I can't
age.
imagine that level of like happiness. That's like
Mhm.
next level just joy. It's like you
Mhm.
level up in joy just to
Right.
experience that.
Whatever is above joy. I don't know
Yeah.
what that emotion is, but that is what we were experiencing. And my whole family. Like, you
Mhm.
look at my parents on this video and they are just elated,
Oh
and my
my
siblings are
gosh.
shocked, and everyone is just so excited.
Yeah.
Um, and that was such a hard video for me to know that I had after going through pregnancy loss
Mhm.
because I refused to watch it.
Oh,
I
I didn't know
could not
that.
I could not go back. I actually went back and watched it last night in preparing for this.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
you
I
did?
did. And
How
it
was it
was,
for you?
I teared up,
Yeah.
but I think where I'm at in my life now, I think I appreciated the joy that I felt in that
Oh, for
moment
sure.
in a way that couldn't appreciate it when I was going through the miscarriage.
Yeah.
Because about 3 weeks after this moment with my family is when we found out we were going through a miscarriage. And I think for me, I pretty quickly knew. I and I'm not going to go into like the details of like the physical part of it, but I basically knew I was having a miscarriage.
Mm.
And I went to my husband and I was like, we have to go to the hospital. And it took him a little while. And he was like, wait, what do you mean? And I was kind of explaining the symptoms that I was having. And I was like, we need to go to the emergency room and we need to go now. And he was like, I saw this moment on his face where he like realized what I was saying. And I was like, I'm having a miscarriage. And we're driving to the hospital and he's like, maybe we're not, right? Some of these symptoms can be normal. Maybe it's not a miscarriage. And he's trying to hold on to any thread
Oh
of
gosh.
hope.
That's so sad.
And in that moment, I couldn't take that thread of hope away from him,
But you knew.
but I knew there was no doubt in my mind. There was
Yeah.
no hope anymore. I knew what was happening. And because of the pandemic, because of COVID, I had to be in the emergency room by myself. And I told him, I'm like, we lived so close to the hospital. I was like, go home. Like, don't just sit. Cause he was like, I'm gonna just sit in the parking lot. And I was like, no, that's silly. I'm going to be here for a
Yeah.
minimum 2 hours at absolute minimum. So he goes home and because I just wanted to have him to have some sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Like, how uncomfortable is it to sit in the parking lot while your spouse is, like, in a hospital having a
Yeah.
miscarriage? Like, that's shitty, and, not that being at
Yeah.
home is, like, really any better, but, like, our dog's at home, right? You're in a familiar space at least.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the hospital essentially knowing what's going on, and I think before this experience, I had assumed that medical providers knew how to grieve with someone
Oh my
or
gosh.
how to hold space for
Yeah.
someone who is grieving.
Yeah.
And this experience in the hospital, in the emergency room, all that came crashing down. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, medical providers do not know how to hold space.
Totally.
Maybe
And
not all of
I'm not
them.
blaming them because it's not like they designed their own training
Right.
curriculum, but whoever I'm blaming whoever did. I'm blaming whoever did design the training curriculum
Hmm.
for medical providers around this.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe we should talk about what holding space actually means because we're
Yeah.
therapists. And I think sometimes
Oh
we
my
have our
gosh.
own language a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like holding space or kind of this idea of like just sitting with someone.
Hmm.
Um, I think in society, because of a lot of different things, I don't know, I'm not even going to get into all the pressures, but we do feel this sense of pressure when someone is going through a hard time to try and make them feel better, right?
Hmm.
And it could be a small act as like making them a cup of tea or bringing them something or saying really what seems like a good thing, but is actually really insensitive, just to try and make them feel better. And this idea of like holding space or like sitting with someone is kind of like notice that you have the urge to do that, and then don't.
Yeah. Essentially noticing that you have the urge to change something in them.
Right.
And then don't.
And then don't do it. Yeah.
Just let it be.
And then I think probably the next follow-up kind of usual question when I've talked about this before is like, but then what do I do? And I think that question comes from our own discomfort with these experiences of grief or sadness, right? Our own discomfort in trying to get rid of it within ourselves. And so if you find yourself wanting to get rid of it within yourself, then chances are you're going to want to get rid of it from the person in front of you. You want to take it from them. And I think you're going to kind of talk about this a little bit, but you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will, I'll talk throughout this, but like my experience with people who struggled to hold space, and then people who didn't, because there was one person in particular in my life who, a few people actually, who really helped me hold space. But these medical providers, man, I feel for people who are not in the field of psychology or women who are in the emergency room holding on to hope, and the way that these doctors and nurses interacted with me. And again, I cannot, for a long time, I wanted to be angry at them.
Yeah.
And I was angry at them. But I think looking back, I'm angry at the system.
Yeah.
Like you said, angry at a system that does not provide training to our doctors and nurses about how to hold space for someone who is grieving anything, right? But especially pregnancy loss, where it's just not talked about and it's stigmatized. So I remember like being in the hospital, and one of the nurses had taken me up to do an ultrasound. And while she's doing the ultrasound, she's being very bubbly and very cheerful, which is not a bad thing. But I could tell she was trying to distract me from what was going on. And she's commenting on my body. She's commenting on how flat my stomach was. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, your stomach is so flat. You're in great shape. Like, this is amazing. What do you do for your workouts?" And I'm just like laying there answering her questions. But I'm like, yeah, I do CrossFit. I'm kind of just going through the motions with her. But all I could think about was like, man, I'm here because in 9 months, I hope my stomach is not so flat.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And that's all I could think about. And I just so desperately wanted the conversation to be over.
Yeah.
I was like, how can I make this ultrasound confirming my miscarriage just over? Just get through this.
I think that's a good picture of what the other person feels when when you're not holding space for someone, right? When you're not sitting with someone, it's like, oh my gosh, let's end this conversation immediately.
Immediately.
Because you can tell the other person is uncomfortable. And so now you're uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And
and this is just kind of shitty for everyone. So let's just end this, please.
Yeah.
And so later, I mean, they do the ultrasound and they did a blood test as well. And basically the doctor comes back and is like, "Look, we can't see anything on the ultrasound." And she was like, "Your pregnancy hormone levels are very low." And so she said, basically what this means is that maybe you're having a miscarriage, but maybe you're so early on in your pregnancy that it's not showing up on the ultrasound. And your hormone levels are so low because, again, you're so early in your pregnancy. She was like, maybe you're like 3 weeks pregnant. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because I took a pregnancy test 5 weeks ago that said that I was pregnant. And at this point, I would have been about 7 weeks and 4 days into my pregnancy. And I was like, so like logically, that doesn't make sense. But she could not tell me I was having a miscarriage. She was like, you have like a 99% chance that it's a miscarriage, but there's a 1% chance that you're not. And she was trying to be so helpful.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's what I'm thinking as I'm sitting there. And I'm like, look, lady, I'm having a miscarriage and I know it and you know it, but you can't tell me that I'm having a miscarriage.
Yeah.
I'm like, just give me the news. And in that moment, I was so thankful my husband wasn't there.
Why?
Because he would have held on to that 1%.
Oh.
And I didn't. I was like, I know that I'm having a miscarriage. I know that this is where I'm at. And I can start grieving and processing this,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to hold on to that 1%. But if my husband had been there, I think he would have tried to hold on to that 1%.
Right.
And I didn't want that for him. I didn't want that false hope for him.
Yeah.
And I didn't even tell him that she said that. I
Mm.
basically told him, like, we're having a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And I broke the news to him in a way that my medical providers couldn't.
Right.
And either 2 or I think 3 days later, I had to go back to the emergency room. Basically, I had to go back to the emergency room because they needed to make sure that my pregnancy hormone levels were still going down. Basically, you have to get blood tests until they go to 0. And I couldn't go to the doctor's office to do the blood test because it was a holiday weekend and the
Mm.
emergency room was the only thing open. So they were basically like, sorry, but you have to come back here because we just want to make sure they're trending down for health reasons,
Mm.
right? Because if they're not trending down, it's a cause for concern.
Right.
So I go back to the emergency room 3 days later, which was on Valentine's Day. It
Really?
was Valentine's Day. What a Valentine's Day celebration. And so I'm in the emergency room and by myself again, and they confirm, like, yes, the hormone levels are trending downward. So that's not a good sign, but a good sign
Right.
health wise. They're like, we don't think we need to do any other medical interventions essentially at this point. But basically, the doctor was like, yep, you're having a miscarriage. Follow up with your OBGYN. Bye. And I was like, hold up. Like, you are not just going to walk into this doctor's office, give me that news, and then just walk out
Why
immediately.
why do you think they said it like that?
He was so anxious. I could tell he was so nervous.
Wow.
He was so nervous.
Gosh.
And I stopped him. I was like, hold on. I have questions. And actually, weirdly, I think when I told him that I had questions, that settled him a little bit.
Mm.
Because I was like, well, what is a sign I might need to come back to the hospital if there's any kind of medical emergency or the pregnancy is not ending on its own and I need
It was
medical
almost
intervention?
like
Like,
you gave him something to do.
I gave him something to do because I
Yeah.
genuinely had questions.
Yeah.
And he did settle in a little bit after that in I think a helpful way.
Yeah.
But what was also interesting is that at no point during the 2 times I was in the emergency room did anyone say, "You should take time off from work."
Mm.
They did say, "You're going to be experiencing symptoms and in pain for a little while, for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks." And I think it
Yeah.
was about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But at no point was someone like, "You should take a few days off, you should recover." So here I am like, "Okay, I'm going back to work in a couple days as a psychologist, as a therapist on internship."
Right.
And I was not doing well.
Which let's talk about how crazy that is.
That's so
Because if
crazy.
you had lost a parent or something, right?
Right.
No one would be expecting you to like go into work.
Mhm.
And here you are, you lost someone.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's like it's so interesting that even you were like, I guess I'll go back to work.
Mhm.
And
And
that's how little it's talked about in society.
and to the point where I am not the only person who has gone through this. I actually was having a conversation with someone in my life who'd also experienced pregnancy loss, and she also was back at work
Wild.
in a very,
Yeah.
like, high stress, high demanding kind of job, like a very physical job.
Yeah.
She also worked in a hospital, and so she was like, "Yeah, I was also at work," and she's like, "I had a moment where I was like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Should I be here?" And we both were like, "Yeah, no, neither of us should have been
Yeah.
there." And I actually had a follow-up appointment. It was a phone appointment with the OBGYN
Mm.
a few days later, and she was like, "Well, yeah, because 'cause you're not at work." And I was like, "No, I am at work." I was like, "As we speak, like, I am taking a break from work to have this conversation." And in a very loving way, she scolded me.
Mm.
And she did it in the most perfect kind of like, you should not be at work, kind of like, how dare you, but with a
Yeah.
lot of love and encouragement. And she was like, as we speak, I am sending you an off work letter. She was like, you need to be off the rest of the week,
Yeah.
if not longer. And she was like, if you need a note for longer, you call me.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually remember later on, I had a conversation with my supervisor about this because I was like, look, I have to tell him what I'm going through because at that time we were on internship and I was
Yeah.
our internship was 3 different rotations. And during this rotation, you're like immersed in a certain clinic, getting experience and training.
Yeah.
And the particular clinic that I was in was health psychology. And it was in the hospital. It was a more demanding kind of clinic, one that I didn't have as much experience in. So it was very challenging.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of concern about like, I am not going to be at the top of my game.
Right.
And I was like, I need to tell my supervisor this. I need to be upfront about this. And so I
Yeah.
basically told him like, hey, look, this is why I was out last week and why I'm not on my game, this is your explanation. And I remember being so scared to tell him.
Why? Why were you scared?
He was a dude.
So what did you
I
think would?
I think I feared that he wouldn't understand,
Oh,
or I had fears that.
that makes sense because you have had so little understanding up till that point. It's like, here's
Right.
another person here.
Exactly, or that he would like think of me different,
Hmm.
or I just was so anxious about it
Like, what would he think differently?
that I wouldn't be able to perform in my job.
Oh,
Because we are
wow.
psychologists working alongside patients who,
Yeah.
especially in a hospital setting, right? There's so many different psychology settings, but this was in a hospital,
Yeah.
bedside with patients who are going through medical
Gosh.
things
How deep is that?
alongside mental health things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, am I really like, I was like, is he gonna be concerned about my ability to do this job?
That is crazy.
And then lo and behold,
Like zooming out, like here you
mm-hmm,
are, you had a
mm-hmm,
miscarriage and you're like, what are they going to think about my performance?
right.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I will never forget this supervisor for many reasons, but this one will
Yeah.
always stay with
We've
me.
had some good
We've
supervisors.
had some
We've had
really
some good
good
male
supervisors.
supervisors.
Yeah,
Maybe
some
that's part of the
bomb.
reason why we're so pro like dad's mental health and men's mental health.
Yeah, speaking
Yeah.
of the last episode, because the male supervisors we've had in our lives
Yeah.
are also dads and
Yeah.
awesome psychologists and like have been so
So
supportive
supportive.
of us.
Yeah.
And this is a prime example because he just stopped and he was like, Marissa, you tried to come to work while you were going through a miscarriage? And I was like, well, yeah, I don't I didn't know what else to do. No one
Yeah.
said take time off. And he was like, oh, if I would have known, he was like, you don't need a note, you don't need anything. You
Yeah.
tell me how much time you need. And he was basically like, if at any point on this rotation, not for the next week, not for the next 2 weeks, he said, at any point on this rotation, as long as I am your supervisor,
Yeah.
if you need any amount of time, you just tell me.
Should we name drop?
I don't know. I'm scared to name drop just because of the setting we work
Oh,
in.
okay.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't ask them permission, but I want to name
Yeah.
drop because he's just,
I know.
and I've told him this after the fact that I will never forget this moment
Mm-hmm.
because he was like, you just text me or you send me a message and say, I got to be out for the day. I got to be out for the hour,
Yeah.
whatever it is, no questions asked. And then he shared his experience of pregnancy loss. And then we cried together.
Oh my gosh.
And he held space for me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I understand this grief and I'm here for you in this grief.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just felt this wave of like acceptance.
Yeah.
And I still had anxiety about my performance on that rotation because it's a 3-month-long rotation and we were getting to the end of it and the evaluation. I was like, oh, this is not going to be the greatest evaluation. And I've never gotten such positive or glowing
Wow.
reviews from a supervisor.
Yeah.
And again, we cried during my
Yeah.
evaluation. And I was so thankful for him having held space for me.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so important. I do think that like for me especially, like before I had kids, before I jumped into this whole world of like reproductive mental health or motherhood or any of that, I don't think I really appreciated how significant miscarriages are. And I had a lot of people close to me, like family members that had, honestly, after we started talking about like, well, how often does this happen? I was like, oh, well, it happened to my mom. Oh, I guess that happened to my sister too. Actually, I think it's happened to literally everyone that I know. I think the biggest difference is that for me, it didn't feel like that big of a deal until it happened to you because the pregnancies weren't always wanted in other miscarriage stories. So So it was kind of just this like, whew, okay, anyway, moving on kind of situation. Whereas for you, because I saw the video,
Yeah.
because I was so happy watching
Mm-hmm.
that video. I remember when you told me you had a miscarriage. Like, I remember where I was. I
Mm-hmm.
remember what I
I was
did.
gonna ask you that. Like, do you remember that?
Yeah, I was at the bottom of my staircase. I was getting ready to go upstairs for something, and then I saw your text, and I sat down
Mm.
on the staircase.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to be like very mindful of like what I said
Mm-hmm.
next, but I felt that drop for you.
Yeah.
Like I was empathizing with you a lot. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
no."
Do you remember what you said to me actually? Because I do.
What did I say?
Your response was, I don't know what to say. This fucking sucks.
Oh
And
gosh.
in that moment, because when I had texted you and told you what was happening, was also a period where I was reaching out to a few people. My
Yeah.
husband did the majority of telling people that we had a miscarriage.
Oh, poor guy.
I know. And he took one for the team.
Yeah.
And he told most of the people in our lives. I think I told my mom and sisters, and then my close friends were the people that I reached out to. Um, and I was getting a lot of unhelpful comments from people.
Hmm.
And I
I was gonna ask
remember
you, like, what is something that you wish people understood about miscarriage that you feel like they don't?
mm, mm, it's part of it is this.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, getting your text message was such a relief
Mm,
because I felt like I didn't have to hold space for your anxiety.
mm,
You just acknowledged that this fucking sucks and there's nothing that you can do about it. And
yeah.
I think that's one of the things I want people to take away from this episode is that there is nothing that you can do and nothing that you can say to make this grief go away.
Right.
Maybe you can briefly offer some relief or some comfort, but truly there's nothing that you can do or say. And I
Yeah.
think so frequently I felt other people's desire to change what I was going
Yeah.
through. And that's where their anxiety was coming from. And that's where their not so helpful comments were coming from.
Yeah.
Whereas from you, it was just like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Gosh, I'm glad I wasn't so dumb back then.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was.
I do say that I feel like as a society, I say this a lot in therapy that are like big three emotions that we struggle with as humans maybe is grief, sadness, and boredom.
Mm-hmm.
And we try and take that away from other people too.
Yeah.
And that gets us into a bunch of trouble because we say
Yes.
things like the classic things after a miscarriage, right? You'll
Mm.
have another one.
At
It'll be
least you know you
okay.
could get pregnant.
Yeah.
At least you were early on.
Mm-hmm.
If the pull is, if you're with someone who's experiencing loss, pregnancy loss, and your pull is to say, at least
Yeah,
stop,
stop right there.
stop.
Just stop right there.
Just, we're going to hold it. Just stop.
Yeah.
Because even though you want to be helpful, and even though whatever you're about to say is going to be said with good intentions, the impact of it
Mm-hmm.
is not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, maybe more harmful.
Yeah.
And there is so much stigma.
Yeah.
And people say some pretty fucked up things. Like there's comments people make that are not helpful, but there's also comments that people make that are, I'm just going to say mean or rude.
Like what?
What did you do?
Oh, on that note, I should talk about that most miscarriages in the literature, when they've looked into it, they found that most of them, like literally the majority of them,
Overwhelming majority
are caused by chromosomal abnormalities or factors beyond a person's control.
Mm-hmm.
So there's almost nothing you could do to prevent a miscarriage
Mm-hmm.
from happening.
Yeah.
We try and get ahead of it, right? Folic acid, all of these things, but even that, because I think you were taking all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it still happens.
It still
Still happens.
I think the rare times where something has happened in a pregnancy, like some kind of physical trauma, a car accident, right? Those are the situations. And it's got to be pretty big, right? For you to know that that's what's causing the miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the overwhelming majority of the time, it is
Yeah.
some chromosomal abnormality out of your control.
Yep.
But people don't treat it like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I literally had someone say to me, oh, well, what did you do
Mm-hmm.
to cause the miscarriage?
Yeah.
Or someone who said, oh, well, next time, maybe you should change things in your lifestyle so that you don't have another miscarriage. And when I
Mm,
tell you I wanted to strangle this person,
oh my gosh.
oh my goodness.
There's so much like blame, like trying to
Oh,
find a way
and
to
blame on the
on the
woman.
woman, on the
Oh my,
woman.
and my husband stepped in that moment. Michael immediately, because I think he could, I mean, he knows me very well, and I think
Mhm.
he knew the rage that was about to surge in me, um, and he didn't want me to strangle this person, so
Yeah.
he stepped in and was like, "There is nothing that she did to cause this,
Yeah.
or nothing to change in the future to prevent this."
Yeah.
And I was so thankful that he stepped in because that kind of like diffused the anger that was
Yeah.
boiling in me. But people really do make a lot of messed up comments.
Yeah. I want to talk about one thing that I want to make sure that we get to, and that's cultural practices and traditions around miscarriage,
Hmm.
because we don't have that many
Hmm.
in this society. There's nothing that
Yeah.
we do when a miscarriage happens.
Hmm.
What would it have been like for you to have some sort of something around the miscarriage, or a tradition, a something? I know there was, what was the thing that you buy and it's like a way to commemorate the baby and things like that? It's like something off of Etsy.
That I bought?
Yeah.
Oh. So I am actually wearing it. I have
Oh,
birthstone
can you hold it
rings.
up
Oh
to the
yes,
camera somewhere?
all the cameras. So I
Yeah.
have birthstone rings for
Yeah.
all three of my kids, and I started this after having the miscarriage
Yeah.
because I just needed a way for me personally to honor this experience
Yeah.
and to not forget it.
Yeah.
Because despite the amount of pain that I was in, and more so emotional pain, I did not want to forget that pregnancy and I did not want to forget that baby. And I felt
Yeah.
like I might. And then I had a lot of guilt about that.
Hmm.
And so I don't know why this came to mind, but I was like a birthstone ring.
Mm.
So I always say she, we were not at the point in pregnancy to know the sex of
Oh,
the baby.
interesting.
But
But you
from the
call it
moment I
she.
was pregnant, I always referred to the baby as she, and I have just continued to carry that with me. So she was,
Fascinating. I
hmm
bet you it was.
I have a lot of
Mhm.
confidence that the baby was a girl. Um, and so she was supposed to be born in September. So I have a September birthstone ring, and I actually have two September birthstone rings because I actually got pregnant, almost exactly a year later.
Yeah.
So the due dates were like 2 weeks different. So when
Wow.
I miscarried, I was due the end of September, September 26th. And then when I got pregnant again, I found out that my due date was September 17th. Or
Yeah.
actually, my due date was September 19th, and then I had
Yeah.
my son on September 17th. So I've got two
Mind you,
September
in
birthstone
between
rings.
there, you had to go through your sister having her baby.
Uh-huh.
You still had to go through birthdays and things like that of what would have been, or the due date
Uh-huh.
of your baby. Those are all things that I don't think get talked about enough. Like, because
Oh,
it doesn't
yeah.
just end at the miscarriage. It's all these like different little reminders.
Mhm.
And then one thing you always talk about is, and I think one thing that comes up in therapy a lot for a lot of women is, and then what happens when you get pregnant again?
Yes. So I do wanna give some time to these things,
I
and this
know.
might be a longer episode, and I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But I remember my sister came to me and was like, "Look, we're," she told me that they were going to do, like, a gender reveal party, and she was like, "I'm telling you this because I'm gonna give you an out right now." And she
Mhm.
was kind of like, "Don't come." She was like, "You're invited, but, like, don't come." Um And I remember being like, "No, no, no, like, we're good." And then I talked to Michael, and he was like, "Are you sure you wanna go?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you wanna go, I wanna go." And he was like, "Okay." And I just remember being at this gender reveal, and she found out she's having a girl, and I just remember it hit me like a wave. Like, the
Mm,
whole day, I felt like I was choking down tears, and then in
yeah.
that moment, it took every ounce of strength that I had not to completely unravel.
Gosh.
And they had their moment, and they were celebrating, and I remember going to my brother-in-law, like, pulling him aside and just being crying And I
Mhm.
was like, I'm so happy for you, and I have to leave. Like, I have to
Mhm.
leave right now.
Oh my gosh.
And I pulled my sister aside and I very briefly said the same thing to her. And she was like, I get it. I get it 100%. And she was like, I love you. I know that you love me. I know you love this baby. If leaving is what you need right now, go.
Yeah.
Um, and me and my husband are driving away, and we're maybe like a few minutes into our drive home, and we are both crying so hard that we had to pull over.
Gosh.
And I was like, and I looked at him and I was like, this was a mistake.
Mm.
And I apologized. I was like, I'm sorry. And he was like, you have nothing to be sorry about. It's not like I knew. But he was like, yeah, we both overestimated where we were at. And this was
Yeah.
actually more unhelpful
Yeah.
than it was helpful. And then, like you said, there's all those moments, right, where you're like, I would have been 6 months pregnant. I was actually at my sister's house with her newborn baby on the due date of my baby.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that just gave me goosebumps.
And that was the first time I got to meet my niece, and, like, I'm so excited about meeting my niece, and then just quietly so sad.
Yeah. I have a patient that had a stillbirth and she had to go back to the nursery that she had
Mm,
created for the baby.
yeah. It's those, like, small
And
moments.
then what do you do? Yeah,
What
do
do
you
you
take it
do?
down?
Yeah.
Put it all back in the boxes?
And, like, no one's supposed to know what to do
No.
in these moments. Like, no one has the answers, like, we're all just figuring it out in that moment. Um, but man, how overwhelming.
How overwhelming.
Mhm.
Do you think that if we had more cultural practices, it would uh help with the support around the grief?
100%.
Yeah. I
Uh,
actually did a little bit of research yesterday because we've talked about this before, but not in a whole bunch of detail. But like in Mexican culture,
mhm.
for Dia de los Muertos, they usually include any babies that passed away, any
Mm.
miscarriages, things like that. It's part of the practice. In Japan, parents often purchase a small Jizo statue, and I guess it's for the protector of children, and they dress them up in
Mm.
little bibs or hats, and they visit the temple to offer prayers, and
Wow.
care for the statues.
Oh,
So I
I
just think about
love
like,
that.
yeah, how many different cultures have anything
Anything.
around a miscarriage, stillbirth, all of that,
Mhm.
and how isolating it was for you just to have that experience and then go home
Mhm. And then just
and then
go
go to
home.
work.
Right. And I really think, like, as simple as it is to have a birthstone ring,
Yeah.
it has been so meaningful for me.
Hmm.
And it's like, her birthstone is right next to my boys, and it feels very, um, complete.
Yeah.
Like, it feels, I don't know, it's like a homey feeling. I can't quite describe it, but it feels right
Yeah.
to give that space and that honor,
Yeah.
um, and not just move past it, because how do you really move past something like that?
Right.
And I want it to stay with me forever
Mhm,
because I want her to stay with me forever.
mhm.
And doing something so small as, like, these different cultural practices, or wearing something, in my case, a ring, to have that memory has helped so much with the grief.
Yeah. My sister had a stillbirth and I believe that either the hospital or she thought of this, but someone offered, I think, to do newborn photos for
Mm,
the baby. And
mhm.
they did. And it really helped her because she wanted to
Yeah,
be able to say, like, this is part of our little
yeah.
family.
This is part of my story,
Hmm.
because all of our stories have grief in them,
Yeah.
and that's okay. They're meant to. And I think about this quote often, that grief and joy are a mirror of each other.
Mm,
And you cannot experience joy
hmm.
unless you also accept that there is grief at some point that comes with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, for me, I never regretted telling all the people that I told,
Yeah.
because I opened myself up in a very raw way telling people about this miscarriage.
Yeah.
But because I shared my grief with them, a year later, when we found out we were pregnant, I then got to experience joy with them.
Yeah.
And, I remember you asked me a moment ago, like, what is, I think you said something about, like, what is something that I wish parents knew,
Yeah.
or that experience, like, after pregnancy loss, right? If you get pregnant again, you probably will not experience the kind of joy that you did the first time.
Right.
And I was very grateful that someone told me that.
Mhm.
Because when I got pregnant with my son, and I remember looking at that pregnancy test, excitement and joy were basically non-existent. It
Mhm.
was mostly fear and anxiety and shock.
Yeah. And
Um,
maybe we should be clear about why do you think that is?
I was so scared of having another
Yeah,
miscarriage.
it's like a protective
It was
mechanism.
protective.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I was like, I remember it was 3 o'clock in the morning and I just
Yeah.
woke up and I was like, I need to take a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And I had gotten a negative pregnancy test 2 days before. And I was like, Marissa, you're being silly. Like, why are you taking another test? And I
Sometimes
did.
you know.
I
You just
just, and that
know.
actually
Yeah.
ironically happened with my second
Yeah.
pregnancy. Same thing. I woke up at 3 in the morning just feeling like
Yeah.
I need to
Mine
take a
too. I
pregnancy
knew every
test.
time I was pregnant. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
know this.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, like that it's a protective mechanism. And going back to the idea of like holding space or sitting with something, I don't think there's anything we need to do about that protective mechanism.
Right.
I don't think you need to be like, well, I need to get rid of it so I can experience this joy or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. I think it's okay that it's there.
Yeah, I think so
We
too.
can just let it be.
Mm-hmm. And there was guilt too that then
Hmm.
followed up that anxiety.
Yeah.
Guilt that, oh, because I'm not excited and because I'm having all these anxious emotions, that means I don't love this baby the
Yeah.
same amount.
Yeah.
But that's not true. You're just protecting yourself. You love this baby just as much as you did the first one,
Yeah.
but grief never really ends.
Right.
It just changes. And when you find out you're pregnant again, in my case, I'm like the grief hit all over again.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Hmm.
And then there was a lot of subsequent joy in
Right.
telling people again that we were pregnant.
Hmm.
Um, joy, excitement. I remember telling you that I was pregnant.
Hmm.
I actually remember not only did I tell you that I was pregnant, but I went to Michael and I was like, Anna's pregnant. And he was like, what? And I was like, I feel like Ana is pregnant. And he was like, he's like, okay, why do you feel like that? Like, what is telling you
Yeah.
that she's pregnant? Did she say something? Did she allude at something? Did she hint? And I was like,
Yeah.
none of that.
Yeah.
I was like, there is nothing telling me that she's pregnant aside from
I didn't know I was pregnant.
you didn't know you were pregnant. I was just pure instinct. I was
Yeah.
like, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And and he was like, Marissa, is this like wishful thinking? And I was like, maybe, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna hold on to it. I think Ana is pregnant.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember the story of you telling me that you're pregnant. And you
Yeah.
knew I was pregnant at this time with my second
I knew
pregnancy.
already. Yeah. Yeah. And then I found out I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I made up some like bullshit reason why I had to go to your house right now immediately. I was like, I have a birthday card you have to fill out for this person's birthday
For a
tomorrow.
supervisor's birthday.
Yeah.
And you were adamant about
I
it.
was very adamant about this card.
And not just adamant about coming to my house, but like the specific time. Like, are you going to be free?
Yeah.
Da, da, da. And I was like, it's the pandemic. We live 2 minutes from each other.
Yeah.
When you want to come to my house, you just like call me and be like, hey, I'm heading over. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like you made it so formal. And I was like, what is wrong with her?
Oh my gosh. And then I just got there and I had the birth control test in hand and I just slammed it on the
test, not the birth
pregnancy.
control
Oh
test.
yeah. Oh gosh. Please do call me out. And then I slammed it on the table.
Yeah, within minutes of being in my house.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, here's the card, but actually here's the positive pregnancy test. And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Isn't
I
that
knew
crazy
it.
how life throws random curveballs at you?
Man.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought?
You would have been pregnant with your sister the first time. Who would have thought? We
Mhm.
would have gotten pregnant 6 weeks apart.
Mm-hmm.
For the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
First time moms.
Yep. First time moms, 6 weeks apart, both with boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
Who are at the beginning of our podcast. Have we said that? The little voices at the
No.
beginning?
Yeah. Did we say that? Yeah,
I
those
don't
are our
think
toddlers.
so. Those are our two little boys that came as a result of that.
Yes. Yep. That's who we were pregnant with at the time. Now being silly and goofy, saying, not your mother's therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are our babies that we were pregnant with in that moment.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, I didn't get to go through pregnancy with my sister, but I got to go through it with you.
Oh.
And there was like I had so much peace
Yeah.
about that. And maybe it was wishful thinking when I was like, Anna's pregnant and had no information to back that up. But I had a lot of peace.
Yeah. And how fun was that we did go through that together?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Living
and now
like
our boys
right
get
next to each other.
Yeah, living right next to each other. Our boys get to grow up with each other. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a turn to that story.
Yeah.
I know we went way over time today.
We did.
But this is an important topic.
It is. And I think the last thing, or do you want to have anything you want to end on? Because I have I actually have a quote from someone in my life that I want to end on, who I shared with him my grief. He was one of our supervisors
Mm-hmm.
at the time. I shared it with
Mm-hmm.
both of our supervisors. I remember you were there when I
Mm-hmm.
was bawling my eyes out, telling these two older male psychologist supervisors that we had. And I was met with so much love by both of
Yeah.
them. And actually, one of them, he sent me a card in the mail. And
Mm.
I remember it was just so sweet and so old school. And I loved that he sent me a card in the mail. And then keep in mind, this is someone who's like a amazing psychologist, amazing therapist, like well into his career, someone that I had so much respect for and
Yeah.
still do. And then he sends me this card in the mail, and I felt so seen by him. And then years later, he was experiencing his own grief after
Mm.
he lost someone in his life. And he, out of nowhere, reached out to me and sent me this message and said, "Your courage and openness helped me so much to see how grief, like all other experiences, is best shared with others in a caring and supportive manner.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for that."
It sure is.
Oof. And I
Yeah.
wanted to end on that quote.
Yeah. I will
Because,
say that's the biggest impact your miscarriage had on me,
mm,
is that when I found out I was pregnant, like the moment I found out I was pregnant, I told everybody.
hmm
I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna wait to be like, oh, well, who can know that I had a miscarriage? Everybody.
hmm
Everybody can know. I
hmm
want everybody to know that this happens and it's a thing that happens and it's okay.
hmm And because of that, I had so much more joy,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of pain telling people
Hmm.
about the miscarriage, but a lot of joy when I
Yeah.
found out a year later that I was pregnant. And
Yeah.
I would not trade that for anything.
Yeah.
hmm
So our call to action.
hmm
Um, I think probably the biggest thing is obviously, right, if you've gone through a miscarriage, your story matters.
hmm
This isn't anything to be ashamed about. If you feel comfortable sharing, maybe if you don't feel comfortable sharing, I think you should.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hmm.
With someone.
With someone,
Yeah.
with anyone, yeah. I mean, it's a way to honor it too.
It is.
Um, and it's a way to start destigmatizing this topic because
Yeah.
it is incredibly common.
hmm Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that call to action.
Yeah. And also, PSI Support International, I'm going to
Yeah.
hit them
Postpartum
up again.
Support
There's a
International.
group there, a free support group that is for women who are pregnant who have previously had a miscarriage
hmm
and are feeling some of that anxiety that goes along with it, or the guilt.
hmm
But if you find that you're still struggling, I recommend I don't think we taught it ourselves enough. We see patients. I mean,
hmm
you could also hit us up
Yeah.
if you want to work on that as well. It happens. It
Find
happens.
someone.
Yeah.
Whether it's a friend, a psychologist, a support
Hmm.
group, find someone.
Yeah. That's our call to action.
hmm
All right. Where can they find us? Well, actually, our next episode is
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be about how to make the decision between having kids and not having kids, because that's
Mm.
a popular topic
Yes, it
today.
is.
So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, me too.
Where can they find us, Marissa?
On Instagram and TikTok at Not Your Mother's Therapist Podcast and Not Your Mother's Therapist Podcast at gmail.com. And then, of course, on all of the podcast streaming apps.
Yeah. All right.
We'll catch you next time.
See you next time.
This podcast is hosted by licensed therapists, but it is not a substitute for therapy. The content is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice or a therapeutic relationship. If you are in need of mental health support, we encourage you to consult a licensed mental health provider in your area.